Hello everyone, and welcome to Divine Debut. This is Kathy speaking, and thank you so much for joining me here on this Astro update, which we haven't done for a little while since it's been really busy over Christmas and January. I want to thank you so much for joining me here. We're quickly looking at the astrological alignments and the planets where they're placed. At this time, as you all know, I always have 0 Aries on the chart to help you follow along. I've been doing this for a few years now, and it gets more technical as we add more astrological happenings. So what I mean by that, we're not only looking at the planets, we're also looking at some asteroids as we evolve and as we learn. We add more to the mathematical equation, which is what astrology is all about. It's all about cycles, large cycles, smaller cycles, and every celestial body does have its own energy, and whatever's going on up there, as above, so below. So we feel these energies. The sky is a reflection of our lives here on this 3D plane. So many of you have been following me for a long time, but I want to welcome the newcomers. We do a lot of astrology, a lot of analysis on Patreon. So if you're interested, you can join us. You can get the links beneath. Join us on Patreon, join Divine Debut 11, as we learn a lot of astrology there, and we do mythology, and we go into the deepest of details. So we look at cycles, that came around months ago, weeks ago, and we look at the planets where they are now, as there's reoccurring themes. So let's say, just as an example, let's say that, okay, Mercury, the messenger of the gods, Mercury, right, who's all about communications, he brings in the news. He's in Capricorn, as we're doing this reading on the 27th of January of 2023. What we need to ask ourselves is, when was he last in Capricorn? When was he last transiting over the degrees of Capricorn? So when was he in the house of Saturn, because Saturn rules Capricorn? These are questions and themes that we revisit as Mercury was in Capricorn last year, around about in Capricorn season. Why? Why though? Because Mercury is a personal planet, as is Venus and Mars. They are personal planets, but Mercury and Venus are they're traveling very close to the sun always. So these are the sort of details as to why are they always close to the sun? Why is Mercury and Venus always close to the sun? And there are answers for everything. We look at these themes, we go into these questions, and we understand why on Patreon. So do consider joining us on tier 2 if you're interested in the new moons and full moons and the eclipses, the analysis of the astrology on new moons, full moons, and on eclipses that tier 2 gets. They also get the extended monthly readings for each sign, and they also get to be in a free giveaways. We give 3 free readings every month. Now tier 3 gets all that I just mentioned, but they also get the month ahead astrology, and they have they get 3 choices, 3 chances to receive a free reading every month. A 60-minute free reading, yes, is the tier 3 free giveaway. For tier 2 we give 40 minutes, a 40-minute free reading, and tier 1 gets a 20-minute free reading, and tier 1 also gets the extended readings for the month. So there's a lot that we do here, and tier 3 also gets the extras. And what are the extras there? We look into We look into Ceres, we look into Hygeia, we look into the asteroids, we look into the mythology, the retrograde planets. When are they retrograde? How long for? All these things are done on Patreon, so do join us there. Anyway, I will stop ranting and go into the astrology briefly, of course. So we'll look into this quickly. Where are we, everyone? We're in Aquarius season. Happy birthday, dear Aquarius, as the sun is transiting through Aquarius. Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio, the 4 fixed signs, are still in the limelight, still up on stage. Why? Because of the North and South nodes. This is the nodal axis of the moon, which is a special point. They're important points, very sensitive points, and the nodal axis, when we have new and full moons close to the nodal axis, right, we have eclipses. And since the nodal axis has entered Taurus and Scorpio, since the beginning of 2022, a year ago, it's the 4 fixed signs, Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio, that have been affected greatly. Now, the nodal axis, they transit in the opposite direction to the planets, so they're counting down. We see that the nodal axis is at 8 degrees now, so obviously it's more affecting those of you that have got planets or angles in the first decan of the fixed signs, first 10 days of the fixed signs. Right, so Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, those of you that are born in the first 10 days of those signs, you're going through fated challenges for change, because the nodal axis speaks to our fate. Now, this is the chart for the collective, right? We all are born with our own personal birth chart, and therefore that is another thing for us personally. We have to look at our own personal birth chart and where are these 4 fixed signs in our own chart. So you would need to know your exact birth time to have your rising sign, and therefore you would know in, which houses Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius take up in your own birth chart. Okay. Now the nodal axis is going to shift from Taurus, Scorpio in the middle of the year to North Node, as it's transiting backwards, I should say clockwise, will enter Aries, and the South Node will enter Libra. Okay, so the North Node being in Taurus is a Venus-ruled sign, so it's all about Venusian matters, Venus being peace, tranquility, love, art, anything that makes us feel good. Remember, Taurus is a fixed earth sign, so it's based pertaining to practical matters. Taurus naturally rules the second house, which is our money. So Taurus and Scorpio, they are money. This is the money axis. Taurus is what we own, and because it's an earth sign, the second house, the second natural house of the zodiac, does rule our physical bodies. So it's been quite challenging for all of us with Uranus transiting Taurus. Uranus is stress, so we've been very stressed about our finances. Scorpio is money that comes through from other sources, from a partner, from a bank. It's taxes, loans, debts, sex. All this is Scorpio. Scorpio being ruled by Pluto and Mars. Pluto is death, transformation. It's large amounts of money, okay? And it's also what we desire. There's a lot of secrecy connected to Scorpio, things that are hidden, As we all know, we know Scorpio people, they don't open up very easily. I feel with Scorpio, as I've got a Scorpio sun, they're either in or they're out. It's black or white. There's no grey with Scorpio. It's yes or no. So quite extremes. And remember, this is the fixed axis, but Scorpio is a water sign, so it's more about the emotions, more about internalizing, right? Water is also very psychic, so Scorpio being very, very psychic and very transformative. It is the house of metamorphosis and change. Can also speak to fears. With the South Node transiting Scorpio, it's a fear of letting go of something that we're comfortable with. This is the collective consciousness, right? The collective future consciousness would be Taurus. So anything pertaining to Venus and self-worth, practical matters, remember Taurus being an earth sign, this is what we should be growing towards, whereas Scorpio is South Node, what is familiar to us and what we need to detach from is the South Node in Scorpio, which is the South Node is a very, very strong karmic past that we're needing to learn to grow away from and grow into the North Node, which is Taurus. So we're all born with the North and South Node somewhere in the chart. But right now, for the future collective consciousness, it's all about our securities, our finances, moving towards what we love. Venus is what we love. Venus is the goddess of love, beauty, creativity, feel-good energies. But with Uranus transiting here, Uranus, because Taurus can be the bank. What money do we have in the bank? What property do we own? Uranus is like tower moments. It goes up and down, very unexpected changes, tower moments, and revelations. Just doing things out of the norm. It's very Uranus is very much about being wired up, feeling strain, that something needs to change towards the future. And it's all about rebelling, not, Uranus being there wants to break down things that have been stuck, that we've been fixed on, things that need to change. Remember that water that runs is healthy. Stagnant water and stagnancy is unhealthy. So as the nodal axis will change mid-year, something, it's a big, big deal because the North Node will enter Aries, which is ruled by Mars. Aries is I, me, my. Aries is the individual, whereas Libra, where the South Node is, will be, the South Node will be in Libra, where Libra, again, is ruled by Venus, but she's a different sort of a Venus, the Venus that rules Libra. She's more of a ethereal, spiritual Venus. She's not about practical matters, things that give us a sense of security. For me, the Venus that rules Libra, and Libra is all about justice and balance and harmony and relationships and anything legal, remember? Being in a relationship, partnership, any relationships, all our relationships, are they in sync? Are they in balance? The South Node transiting Libra tells us that we need to leave those partnerships, relationships that are outworn, that have run their course. So we need to leave the us, and Spirit is saying with the North Node in Aries, it's that we need to be our own warrior. It's all about the fool's journey. Remember, Aries is the fool in the tarot. So we need to take that leap of faith and trust that Spirit has our back. We need to be combative, to sometimes even needing to take a leap of faith and trust that all will be well. What's interesting is that, my dear friends, is that Mars which has been retrograding since last October, Mars, which rules Aries, has been retrograding and in Gemini for a very long stay since last October, and Mars will leave Gemini in the month of March, towards the end of March. So Mars is in a Mercury ruled sign. Mercury is communication, it's collaboration, it is decision making, it's using our logic, it's the messenger. Gemini is a dualistic sign, and therefore has trouble making decisions. With Mars retrograding here in an air sign, air is our perception, our thought process, how we communicate, how we can possibly move forward, because Gemini rules short distance travel, anything that gives us a sense of mobility, and any gadgets that give us the ability to communicate or to use our logic. I mean, the third house, the third natural house, rules anything electrical. I mean, all white goods, the home office, all these little gadgets and electrical things are all under the third house of Gemini. Now, Gemini, very intelligent, very logical, very quick thinking, very much about communication, very much about, we know that air is not like earth, it's not like water. Water runs. Earth is grounded. It's a sense of grounding and stability, gives us security. Air is all about the way we perceive and we communicate. And air cannot be seen. It's how we perceive things. Many people may perceive things in a different way. So Gemini is very curious, wants to learn. It's the house of learning. It's the house of the student. So Mars in an air sign, in a good position, but with Mars retrograding here, needing to revisit the past, and retrogrades we know are all about, our perception of planets moving backwards, but in actual fact it's just our view from being on Earth, that we perceive the planet as going backwards. This is not actually happening. It's more concerning our view from the Earth. So it's like revisiting the past. It's like the energy, instead of it turning outwards, when planets are moving direct, it's like the energy moving outwards. So when retrograde Mars turned inwards, because Mars is all about fire, it rules Aries, it's cardinal fire, it's wanting to move forward, wanting to have the courage, the energy, the passion, the desire, and to be the warrior, to figure things out in Gemini, to say things that cannot be said usually, or to research, revisit the past pertaining to details, which is Gemini, and make a possible decision, decide on how we're going to move forward. Mars being cardinal fire and retrograde, we've turned the energy inwards. So instead of the energy from us going outwards, we're pushing outwards. The energy is turned inwards and therefore can be very, very frustrating. It's like pressing on the gas and not getting anywhere. There's no spark, right? There's frustration, there's aggression, there's research that needs to be done. Yes, so Mars in Gemini would be like pressing on the accelerator and the brake at the same time. So burning rubber, right? Very frustrating. God knows. We've had the result of this for me has been an oven that needs repairing, having taken it to the repairer 2-3 times. A lot of frustration about that. As I said, Gemini rules all white goods, so fridge, oven, anything that you've got, at a home, things breaking down, your car breaking down, the internet. Gemini is the internet. We've waited extra long, so many things, so many wrong details, and needing to revisit again and again, do something 3 or 4 times before it can work. So it was a very powerful few months with Mars retrograding in Gemini. And now Mars has turned direct. It's been a few days, but Mars has also been, he's sort of been out of bounds, which means he's not, it's like he's stepped over boundaries. So doing something out of the norm, like driving in a car where there's no brakes, you don't have any brakes. So losing control, anything like that could come up with Mars out of bounds. Thankfully, Mars has turned direct, but he's now transiting over the degrees that he retrograded. So those of you, this will be very prominent and has been very prominent for the mutable signs, which are Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces. Obviously, very importantly for Gemini, but as well as for Sagittarius, because if we look at the axis, they're both on the same axis, and there's like think of scales, like one scale, and then there's like a seesaw, more energy, more heaviness on one side, and then on the other. It's like trying to find the middle ground. So both Sagittarius and Gemini, obviously, have felt this retrograde of Mars, and it's very important for them. But Virgo also and Pisces, which are in 90 degrees square, right? They're in a square aspect to Gemini, which puts Virgo and Pisces under a lot of discomfort. But there are opportunities for change, and change is necessary without these difficult aspects, which is a square. As you can see, these red lines, 90 degrees aspects are never easy, but they call for change. And as I said, change is healthy. And this we'll start to see the action and the changes and the situation starting to unfold as Mars has turned direct now and is covering his retrograde degrees. Once he gets to the 25th degree, where he's stopped and stationed to turn retrograde, he'll be covering new ground. So there'll be a new story. Right now, we're still dealing with the old story, but it's like things are starting to roll. They will start to pick up. The energy will pick up as a planet starts to come out of his retrograde. Its retrograde, I should say. It starts to pick up pace, and therefore things start happening. Now, Mercury has just recently come out of retrograde. Mercury, which rules Gemini and Virgo, which has had to, Mercury has had to be very mature. Mercury is very much the youth. So being the ruler of Virgo and Gemini, obviously it's been hard for Virgo and Gemini as they've been dealing with past issues. Now, we all have Capricorn somewhere in our chart, and we've all been revisiting old situations. Even, I'm going to take it back to the beginning of 2020 when we had that great conjunction of Pluto and Saturn, my dear friends, which then it sort of started off the transformation, the metamorphosis of the world collectively, as well as us and our own lives personally. And then Jupiter joined and brought, Jupiter expands on everything he touches. So, and then Mars joined the party, and there was, this was something that we've all been talking about for years, coming up to 2020 and this great conjunction. Saturn, we know, was very powerful in his home sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is those that sit in positions of power, leaders, political leaders, those who are at the top of their game, those who rule. Okay, this is what Capricorn is. It is the being a Saturn-ruled sign, it is the sign of the elder, the more mature. So it rules the elderly. Now, back in March of 2020, Saturn entered Aquarius, and again, Saturn rules Aquarius. Saturn, good old Uncle Saturn, who's a very cold and restricting uncle. He teaches us difficult lessons. Remember, this is Kronos in mythology, who would gobble up his own children for fear of losing his power. Both these areas of the chart do speak to those in power and a lot to do with politics. Now, of course, Capricorn is those that are in positions of leadership, but Aquarius would be more the groups that lead, right? Large groups that we associate our lives with, and Saturn has been restricting, as we know, since the beginning of the pandemic, with the lockdowns and the restrictions and the social distancing. We've been dealing with Saturnian restrictions, limitations, and hardships, I could say, the past 6 years. So since it's 2023 now, 6 years back, we're talking back in 2017, 2018, they were not easy years. But thankfully, Saturn will be in March, early March, he'll be stepping into Pisces, so he'll be leaving his position of power. Saturn will be a very different energy as he will be transiting Pisces. And Saturn transits through a sign roughly 3 years. So that will be a great relief, as Saturn will not be as powerful from the beginning of March moving forward. Therefore, Saturn will relieve Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio, since they are the fixed axis. So Saturn does challenge the fixed axis and has been ever since he entered Aquarius back in March of 2020. Now, we've been talking about a Saturn-ruled sign, Capricorn, which is a cardinal earth sign. So Mercury, being the youth, being the curious, being the messenger, needed to mature. We've all had to mature. We had to be grounded and not airy-fairy. We had to look at our health. We had to be grounded. There's been a sense of heaviness, and that's why Mercury has been retrograding there. We need to get our story right. What is true? What is not? What is it that we need to research pertaining to fears? Remember that Saturn can be about fear. Saturn and Capricorn, I should say. Saturn in Capricorn is about heaviness. It speaks to lead, right? Whereas Saturn in Aquarius is a little bit more lightweight, as Aquarius is also ruled by Uranus, and Uranus, the ruling planet of Aquarius, is in Taurus. So we're looking at our values. Has there been, can we make the changes that we need to make to it's like bringing on a new story, looking towards the future, not dealing so much with the past anymore, because Saturn in Aquarius, the past almost 3 years, has been about dealing with the past but also looking towards the future. What's been holding us back, as I always say about Saturn, we're trying to get away from those claws of Saturn, that grip that won't let us move forward. So Mercury has a turn direct. We've been looking at old situations. Right now, Mercury being in Capricorn, obviously, this is, and having turned direct will help all the earth signs, because Capricorn, Virgo, and Taurus, they connect well. earth signs connect with each other well, air signs connect well to each other. So with even Mars moving direct, this is very positive for all the air signs, for Aquarius and for Libra. Remember just what, these signs are about. Air is about perception, communication, truth, right? Earth is about our stability, our finances, feeling stable, getting grounded, right? So these retrograde planets, these planets now, they're personal planets, Mercury and Mars, having moved direct. It also speaks to us, not only collectively, but also personally. So if you are familiar with your own chart, which area of your chart does Capricorn take up? Because we know this is not a fun archetype. Capricorn is the elder. It's all about responsibility, but it's also about building, putting down those foundations. And Pluto is seeing to breaking down those foundations and anything that hasn't been solid or that's run its course, because Pluto is all about karma. He is the god of death, endings, and after endings come new beginnings. So Pluto has been breaking down the patriarchy, right? Pluto is a very slow process. He takes 20 years to transit a sign. So he's very slow and he works in the background. He's like clockwork, and many times we are not conscious of what he is breaking down and letting die away. Okay, it is oftentimes that Pluto, and we need to know where Pluto is in our own chart and how Pluto in Capricorn interacts with our own personal Pluto in our personal chart. And just on that note, if you are not familiar with your birth chart and you've got your birth details on your birth time, your exact birth time, you can always email me, divinedebut11@gmail.com, and I can run your chart for you, and it's a free service, and send it back to you. Okay? If not, you can go to www.astro.com, okay, and just punch in all your birth details there, and you will get your chart, and you will be able to see where your planets are placed, where they were placed as you took your first breath when you were born. So Pluto, as I said, is running in the background. Pluto is in late March. He is going to enter Aquarius, which is a big deal. We will feel a major shift, my dear friends, as Saturn, early March, will ingress into Pisces, and Pluto will test drive because he will retrograde back to Capricorn. He's not finished in Capricorn. He's not finished with breaking down the patriarchy and those who are in positions of power that are using their power for their own benefit and not for the good of the whole. And Pluto can also speak to riches, abundance, large amounts of money, power, control. All these things are changing as we are seeing the matriarchy, the birthing of the matriarchy. We'll see a lot of women in positions of power, a lot more yin energy in positions of power. This is something that's been going on for thousands of years. So as we know it, humanity is going through a major metamorphosis. Now, as Pluto is going to test drive in Aquarius, this will last for 3 months, end of March till mid-June, we will feel this major shift. So even though Saturn will leave Aquarius, Aquarius is going to trial, and I should say not only Aquarius, but the fixed signs, again, will trial Pluto in Aquarius. Now the power will come to the humanitarian, to the large groups, to people that you socialize with, to politics, to lots of futuristic energies. Aquarius is the maverick. It's doing things very differently. It's people coming together, large groups connecting and ruling over the individual leader, which would be more the Capricorn energy. Right? Aquarius is technology. It is the future. Aquarius is intelligence. Aquarius is the awakening, and it's the collective that is awakening to the truth and what's been happening in the world. The earth itself is changing. The people that reside on the earth are changing. We're coming into the age of Aquarius. We're coming into the understanding and into the truth that the power is amongst the people. The power comes to the human race. And this is a new technology and new ways of doing the future and moving into the future. So we're going to see with Pluto that will return to Capricorn, and then in 2024 will return again. So Pluto will do this back and forth dance, and the third time he will end, towards the end of 2024, he will enter Aquarius and stay there for the next 20 years. So it's all about our perception, it's air, and when we've got outer planets that are very, very powerful and they do speak to the collective, when they are in air signs, good times ahead, my dear friends. Air signs help. They do help greatly. And this is known from looking back into history. What's also interesting here on this chart is that Venus has now ingressed into Pisces, where she's exalted. She's very happy in Pisces. Pisces, we know, is a water sign, very psychic, very spiritual. Pisces is compassionate, it's loving, sacrificing, but it's also the 12th house, which is like the beginning to an ending of a cycle, as there are many cycles in astrology, and we know that as the sun will, in the time of the equinox, on the 20th or 21st of March, as the sun will ingress into Aries, we'll have our new astrological year. So the sun is almost completing a cycle, as is Venus, as is a Mercury. So we're coming up to March, which, as I said, March is a very powerful month with major transitioning of Saturn, Pluto, and obviously the sun ingressing into Aries. Now, let's talk about Venus in Pisces. Obviously, she's in a mutable water sign. So mutable means mutation and change. Now, it's a 12th house, which can speak to a lot of karma. 12th house can also speak to secret love affairs, secret enemies, long distance, people that are far away from us. Pisces is ruled by Neptune and Jupiter is in a very strong position in Aries here, in a sign ruled by Mars, and Mars has moved direct. So if we look back a year ago, almost a year ago, let's say, when Venus was again in Pisces, she did conjoin with Neptune, which can be very magical. So there's a lot of magic promised soon. But Jupiter was also in its home sign of Pisces, which brought potential for magic, but also for a lot of deception, as Jupiter expands on the energy of Neptune. These brothers, Jupiter and Neptune, very different energies. As when we look into the mythology, Neptune, the god of the seas, can be very deceitful. We cannot communicate underwater. Water speaks to a lot of emotion, a lot of psychic ability, drowning. Neptune in his dark phases, let's say, could be very, very harsh indeed. Very deceptive, very much about, dreaming. I mean, Pisces is the house of sleep and dreaming. It can be very imaginative, very spiritual, very much about the vision, dreaming of a vision. Jupiter should bring the truth, but because Jupiter expands on everything he touches, yes, there's been a lot of propaganda about what's been going on in the world. Mainstream media is whatever we see on the TV or we hear, let's say, the perfect picture or a perfect story or a narrative. There's been a lot of deception around, a lot of stories that were told that were unreal, that were part of the narrative pertaining to those that are in positions of power, as to not lose control, as to become richer. Pluto means riches. So I've been saying that large amounts of money have changed hands, right? Many people had get rich quick schemes. They've made a lot of money. Others have lost a lot of money. So we know that the challenges that the world has been trying to overcome, we're still there, my dear friends. And I do feel with this major shift of, Pluto and of course Saturn, we're going to, and very closely, almost at the same time in March, will be a big deal. And Mars will be leaving Gemini in March as well. So it'll be like a new narrative, a new story as we come into the equinox. So very looking forward to March. And we know the story the narrative began with social distancing, the pandemic, things closed down, businesses, people lost their jobs. So this was like a domino effect, which, as we know with the nodal axis entering the money axis, Taurus Scorpio, early of 2022, it's the story now playing out is all about our financial situations, the economy of the world. As we know, there's been, and because Taurus also rules food and what the earth provides us to sustain, to survive. This is still going on as the nodal axis is still transiting through Taurus Scorpio. So the narrative that began has transmutated a little bit, has evolved, and has become more about our survival because of the economy on a cosmic level, but also on a personal level. We know that times are difficult. So yes, we've been going through a metamorphosis. Now with Jupiter returning back to Aries as he retrograded back into Pisces, he's still in his shadow phase. Once, very soon, just around the corner, when he gets to the 8th degree, this is where he's stationed and turned retrograde. So obviously he needed to finish something. He had to revisit Pisces and finish up properly. Jupiter does bring truth, he brings justice, he brings magic, he brings optimism, and we've seen a lot of disclosure. We've had a lot of truths coming out, as long as we know and we're open to do our own research, my dear friends. With Mars in Gemini, it's been all about researching things, being curious. Now, things that we maybe have found out may have been challenging, but it's always better to know the truth than to live in a dreamland, in la la land. Jupiter being in the sign of Aries, Jupiter gives strength, gives power, gives wisdom to the individual. Remember that the nodal axis, the North Node, will ingress into Aries Now, Mars, which rules Aries, is the warrior. Mars and Aries, I should say, is the ram. It's about taking that leap of faith. Jupiter in Aries is like very strategic, very powerful. It's like having all the tools, all the things that we need to take that journey, to continue this new journey, this new world that has surfaced, this new life, these new situations that we're in. Okay, so Jupiter does expand on the courage of Aries, but we need to be able to sustain ourselves and feel powerful and have the energy, feel energized, so that we could move forward. And as Mars has turned direct, this is what's going on. We're on a roll now. Jupiter is here. He's moving forward. He's giving courage to the individual to speak up, to take that leap of faith. Now, soon Jupiter will come onto Chiron, which is the open wound. It could be a wounding that we've been born with or that the world has, but we need to find a resolution. Is it concerning health? Is it physical, psychological, even spiritual, warlike energies? Jupiter will come onto Chiron and will give us the possibilities, the revelations, the resolutions on how to continue our journey. But Chiron is a lot of wisdom. He's the centaur, right? And the centaur, which also refers to Sagittarius, another centaur. Remember that the centaur is half man, half horse. So there's that animalistic energy to Chiron, but also the human ability. Chiron is all about war, is all about knowing how to deal with things, how to fight. When I say fight, I mean Chiron was a healer. He was a spiritual healer. He was a physical healer. He healed, in mythology, he healed the gods. He healed the mortals. And he also taught them, he gave them the tools that they needed to fight for what they needed to accomplish. Now, Chiron is a key. So there will be opportunities, as Jupiter will bring the wisdom to the individual. Right? Chiron in Aries. Aries is about the mind, it's the head, it's leadership, it's confidence. Now, with Jupiter in Aries, Aries is a cardinal sign. The cardinal signs are Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer. So Jupiter, wherever he's transiting, even if it's a difficult situation you're dealing with, Jupiter will bring blessings, will make things not as difficult. Whichever sign he touches and transits through, he brings the blessings. For Aries people, my goodness, this is amazing for you, okay? For Aries and Libra, I would say, Jupiter can also speak to not only expansion, growth, and pairing up, but also separation. He can bring justice and possible separation pertaining to relationships, partnerships, where there's been no truth, where there's been no goodness, no justice. He can bring justice and possible balance, right? He will, though, bring blessings to Aries. Now, he will be transiting Aries all the way up until May. May 16th is when he will ingress into Taurus. So Jupiter, I can say, will bring possibilities and opportunities for all the cardinal signs, right? And after May 16th, will bring the blessings to the fixed signs, especially Taurus and Scorpio, obviously. Now, a few days ago, we had a new moon in Aquarius, as it is the Aquarius season. And on a new moon, obviously, it is a seed that is planted. Something is starting to grow. Aquarius, remember, being ruled by Uranus. And obviously, with the sun transiting Aquarius, it does square over to Taurus. And obviously squares over to Scorpio and opposes Leo. Nevertheless, this new moon, this new seed at the first degree of Aquarius does speak to new beginnings, and these new beginnings, though, as you know, the new moon does start off a brand new cycle. It is a month until the next new moon, which will be having, the next new moon will be in Pisces. But before that, we will have a full moon in Leo. So February 5th, a full moon will be happening in Leo. Full moon is a culmination and an ending. So a very important time for Aquarius and Leo at this point. We know the moon, as it starts off, it's a new seed that's planted, and we start to build on something. The moon right now is transiting through Aries, so it's starting to grow as the moon will ingress into Taurus. We could have the understanding, as the moon will pass over Uranus in the next 2-3 days, we will have an understanding of what we are working on, or what is starting to build, what is starting to grow. And we could have sudden revelations as the moon will pass over Uranus. You know, the moon is our subconscious. It can speak to fears, can speak to our home, our environment, our mother, anything to do with the past, right? Anything that gives us a sense of security, emotional security, financial security, anything connected to what we haven't been aware, what we've been unconscious about. We could have some sort of consciousness or understanding as the moon in the next few days will pass over Uranus. And they will be themes of Venus. Okay? And then obviously the moon will continue until the moon enters Leo. So 5th of February, full moon in Leo. Something will be shown to us, as with a full moon we've got the moon in opposition to the sun. That will happen around the 16th degree of the fixed sign. So if you're born in the middle of the fixed sign seasons, then this will be important for you. Okay, and also what I missed was that Uranus is also now turning direct. He's turned direct on the 22nd, 23rd of the month. So about 4 or 5 days ago, Uranus was the last planet to turn direct, which means all planets are now direct. Okay, and they will be for 2-3 months. So these are opportunities now to start working, building, moving forward. Things are not on the back burner anymore. It's like the work has been done, the research has been done. Now it's all about taking action towards what it is that we are hoping to work on, or where are we putting our energy. It's like all systems go now. The opportunities are multiple, dear friends. Now we've had Ceres is, she's an asteroid. She's the largest of the asteroids, and she does speak to Gaia and what the earth provides. Ceres in mythology, being Demetra, speaks to the seeds, right, to the harvest. I see her such as the Empress, where there's possible abundance, but it's what we are provided with. Sarah speaks to not only relationships, very important relationships, but also because if you think of Demeter and her daughter Persephone, Persephone was abducted by Pluto, and therefore Ceres would mourn and not, the earth would not bloom and provide for its inhabitants. So she can also speak to mourning and loss. So she's been here in Libra for a little bit now, and she's been in opposition to Jupiter. Okay, now in mythology, I remember that Ceres made a deal because her daughter Persephone was abducted from Pluto and taken to the underworld. So therefore, when Persephone was in the underworld with Pluto, she was the goddess of the underworld. She was, yes, reigned the goddess of the underworld. Her mother in mourning would not provide with the food, and what her inhabitants needed to sustain. So it's like the autumn season and the winter season when there's no abundance, there's no food, there's no growth at all. So she actually she went to Jupiter, Zeus, and with his help and with Mercury, with Hermes's help, they figured out what they could do. They made a deal with Pluto that Persephone would visit her mother 6 months of the year, and therefore the earth would bloom and there was prosperity. So there's an opposition here about, what is truth, what is not. Jupiter, remember, on a roll, needing to have the courage. Jupiter is in a Mars-ruled sign. Do we have the energy? Do we have the energy to do the work so that we could reap the rewards, take the harvest, work on the land? An opposition is like a tug of war, right? So remember that Jupiter does bring the truth. Jupiter is justice. Where there's been an injustice, obviously, to Ceres. So there's been an injustice to something pertaining to relationships. Something hasn't been fair and just. And it's like we're walking on a tightrope, trying to find the truth, trying to have the courage to speak up, to not fear the worst, and to work with those energies. Right? Jupiter is also separation. But as we could see here, we see Ceres in a beautiful trine over to the sun. So the sun moving through Aquarius, and Aquarius is intelligence, tower moments, revelations, awakening as to what we can do, because the sun is at an apex here, at a very good position that will give us the understanding of what we need to do to continue moving forward. Yes, the sun provides us with an intelligent way or understanding of what we need to do to overcome this opposition. Okay? And there's a wonderful air trine as Mars, the warrior, is now starting to move direct. Mars is energized in Gemini, and we can also think of Mars as the Four of Swords, where he needed to figure out things, he needed to sustain, to wait, to think logically, to do his homework, to do his research before. So the Four of Swords comes to mind, and he's got now the ability and the sustenance and the energy to move forward, to work on the land, to work on a relationship, right? We've got air energies, which is our perception, it's communication, it's how we can move forward. Air is fast. And Mars in Gemini will be fast as long as he starts to pass, he starts to pick up pace. So the warrior now is starting to awaken and knows what he needs to do to move forward. We've also got Mercury now direct in beautiful trines, beautiful connection over to Uranus. This is like using logic, both sides of the brain. Mercury, left side of the brain, Uranus, the right side of the brain. We're thinking logically, we're stepping forward. These are revelations, bright ideas, good communication, good news. And we can also see Venus here in Pisces. She will start soon to sextile over to Uranus. So yes, these could be also, pay attention, signs and synchronicities, spirit talking to us and giving us the, even through our dreams, ideas on how to move forward, on things that we love, how to fix situations, how to get unstuck, how to also figure out how to escape, how to open that, remember the key here, how to open and exit anything that we've been stuck in, blocked by. Saturn, remember, can speak to the law, and Saturn and Uranus, obviously, they're still in, well, they're about, what can I say, they're 11 degrees apart. They still feel each other, but this square is over with. So remember, I've been talking about this, my dear friends. It's about not closing the door fully on the past, but taking the experiences of the past and taking the intelligence of the now and the possibilities we have to move towards the future. So not throwing out the baby with the bathwater is the advice here. When Saturn will ingress into Pisces, Saturn will be in good connection to Taurus. So this is something really positive to look forward to. As we know, the outer planets, Saturn is a very powerful planet and Uranus is a very powerful planet, and they've got a bad history where they could not, work together. They worked against each other. Power struggles is the word. And as Saturn will be transiting through Pisces for the next 3 years, he will help us get grounded and bring us a sense of reality where we've been wearing those rose-colored glasses. So something maybe that we've been dreaming and visioning, Saturn can help us start to build on that after March. Okay, and also Neptune in Pisces, also in a good aspect to Taurus. These are outer planets that take forever to transition through a sign, but even though they're not exact, they still feel each other. Neptune and Uranus, they're in pretty good aspect. Uranus is, remember, the awakener. Uranus is a very spiritual planet. It's the sky god. It's having the wider perspective. It's seeing things from a very high perspective. And Neptune is the dream. It's our vision. It's the magic. But coming together, connected well, Uranus will bring us the truth where there's been illusion. Okay. Now, as the sun is transiting through Aquarius, there is a T-square, two squares. The sun squares over to the nodes, to the nodal axis. So the peak of this T-square, which is a challenging aspect, the sun does bring clarity. The sun can also speak to ego. Remember, fixed signs can be quite egotistical, and believe you me, we all have these areas in our own chart. So I'm not just saying that the fixed signs have got the ego. We all have, and we need to have ego, but in healthy doses. So something will be shown to us. This is like some sort of an awareness. The sun speaks to the ego, and it also speaks to, again, the an awareness. The sun is also vitality, it's health, it's the heart, it's leadership, it's reigning on, taking leadership within a group of people, but, this leader or this leadership is under pressure. What we need to do is focus on Leo, and Leo is where the sun is at its best position. It rules Leo, so the sun does speak to confidence, Leo is all about being out there, being up on stage, taking a risk, flirting with an idea. It's the inner child as well. So maybe also looking towards the future. There's a lot of prospect here, but a square is never easy. And remember, it does speak to the axis of finances. So having the confidence that what we are working towards, what we're hoping to create, we will have that higher mind, that intelligence to have the ability to create. Maybe also, possibly, I don't know, this also may speak to someone standing out in a crowd, someone taking a position of power. This could also speak to someone not having the confidence to stand in their power, or possibly also someone not having the patience for something fated here. Something fated that is playing out pertaining to the collective. This could also be remember the sun has just, we've had a new moon. So new beginnings here, new promise for leaders coming from just groups of people, or groups of people being formed here that are taking leadership positions. It could mean anything really, more so on a personal level. But the sun is also in sextile to Jupiter. This is a beautiful, again, opportunity. It's help from spirit. And remember, the sun and Jupiter, they're the largest celestial bodies within in our solar system. A lot of optimism here, a lot of helpful energies. Lastly, we've got an inconjunction here from the south node, which is 150 degrees, pointing to Mars. And also it's connecting with Jupiter, with Juno. Juno is the asteroid of commitment, marriage. So Jupiter and Juno, and we could also say Chiron, it's like there's an inconjunction. An inconjunction is like something that needs tweaking, changing. It's got to do with the past, with past karma that we're needing to shed. Jupiter on Juno, they were a couple, Juno being Hera in mythology. We know that Jupiter was not sincere. He stepped out of the marriage often, but she stood her ground. She kept her position, and she was very faithful. But this could also possibly speak to, again, mourning a relationship where there's been infidelity, where there's been distrust. Remember that Juno in mythology, Hera, she also retaliated, and she took vengeance upon Jupiter, Zeus's love partners. So this could say that this is a beginning of things such as these that will be showing up. but also, and it could speak to finding intelligent ways to overcome some sort of a separation or mourning, holding on to the past where relationships have not been working. I mean, Jupiter will give us the truth, will bring us the revelation, the resolution to these sorts of subjects moving forward. And we know that there's also these in conjunctions, they're connected with Mars. And remember, Jupiter and connecting over to Mars is having the courage to move forward, to see the truth, finding the truth since we've been curious. And the finger of God is showing us the South Node as to not fearing dealing with karmic purging, things that we're needing to leave our lives so that we could move towards the North Node. Okay, I think I will leave it there. This is quite a long reading. I didn't expect it to be so long. I want to thank you all so much, especially to my patrons who support this channel. If you are someone who likes readings such as these and mythology, then do support us, become a member on Patreon. It's our Patreons that keep this channel going, and my sincere love to them especially, and to those of you also who support through different ways, through liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, and showing your support and love through being here. Thank you so much, everyone. I think I will leave it there. Love and light to all of you, and wishing you well. Ta-da.